Smoke curled from the shattered cockpit as the emergency lights flickered red across the pilot's cracked visor. Commander Jace Thorne pushed open the twisted hatch with a grunt and crawled out onto dry earth. His ship was dead. Systems offline. Weapons gone. Communications silent. The sky above him was a strange shade of violet, with twin suns burning through the haze like watchful eyes. He rolled to his feet, clutching his side where the crash had slammed him against the harness. Blood stained his torn uniform. The jungle beyond the wreckage was unnaturally quiet. No birds. No beasts. Just wind sweeping across a wide open field that led to enormous stone pillars in the distance. They looked like arena gates. A low hum buzzed under his boots. It wasn't mechanical. It felt alive, like the ground itself pulsed in rhythm. Jay scanned his surroundings, but saw no threats. Still, he raised his broken spear. He'd survived worse than this. Hostile worlds, alien ambushes, gladiator pits. But something here felt different. Suddenly, a figure stepped from the shadow of the stone archway. A woman, tall, blue-skinned, armored in gold and leather. Her long white hair was braided down her back like a warrior queen. In each of her hands, she held a crimson blade, curved and deadly. Her eyes locked on his as if she already knew him. Jace didn't flinch. He stood his ground, spear at his side. The woman didn't speak. Instead, she walked in a slow circle around him. The crowd above the arena roared. He hadn't noticed them before. Rows upon rows of aliens, watching, waiting, and chanting one word he didn't recognize, but he could guess its meaning. "Mate fight," she finally said. Her voice was deep, smooth, and filled with confidence. "You crash, you fight, you win, you earn choice. Lose, and you belong to her." Jace blinked. Her? Who was her? But before he could ask, another warrior leapt into circle. This one was shorter, red-skinned, and snarling. She charged Jace with twin daggers flashing. Instinct took over. Jace sidestepped, ducked, and drove his spear into her shoulder. She dropped instantly. The crowd screamed. The blue warrior nodded approvingly. Fast reflexes. Good form. You've fought before. Jace pulled his spear free and backed away. What is this place? She tilted her head. Planet Karwax. Home of the selection arenas. Women choose mates in battle. Men fight to prove they are worthy. You are new. You are strong. You will be tested. He narrowed his eyes. And if I refuse, then you are claimed by whoever defeats you. No man leaves the arena without blood on his blade or a collar around his throat. The rules were brutal, but clear. Jace had fought in 100 arenas across the galaxy, one every time. He'd earned his way out of this strange world just like the others, until she stepped forward again and drew both blades across her chest in salute. "I am Kalari, warborn of House Vuren. I choose you." The crowd erupted. Bells rang from the pillars. Horns sounded from the towers. Jace's name was shouted, twisted into alien syllables. Kalari dropped into a fighter's stance. Jace raised his spear once more. But this time his hands weren't steady. There was something in her eyes that made his chest tighten. It wasn't anger or bloodlust. It was challenge and something far more dangerous. Intrigue. Kalari moved with a grace Jace hadn't seen in years. Her feet touched the sand like feathers. Her blades shimmered under the light of the twin suns. She was calm, calculated, not a berserker, not a wild fighter. She was trained like a professional killer from birth. Jace circled her slowly. He kept his eyes on her shoulders, not her eyes. Fighters could lie with their faces, but never with their posture. Her weight was perfectly balanced. Her fingers relaxed on the hilts. She wasn't nervous. She was waiting for him to blink first. He didn't. Instead, he faked a forward rush, just enough to draw a reaction. Kalari didn't fall for it. She shifted sideways like smoke and smiled coldly. The crowd roared in appreciation. To them, this wasn't just survival. This was tradition, a test of power, worth, and desire. With a deep breath, Jace lunged. His spear struck fast, aiming for her left side. She blocked with one blade and spun the other toward his ribs. He twisted just in time, the second blade grazing his shirt and slicing the fabric open. Blood trickled, warm against the skin. She stepped back. Not bad, off-worlder. You bleed well. Jace smirked. You're not the first woman who's tried to cut me. Her laugh was short. Not amused, but approving. And I won't be the last. But I might be the one you remember. They clashed again. Metal rang through the arena like thunder. Jace blocked a downward slash and countered with a kick to her knee. She slid back, caught her footing, and came at him harder. This wasn't a duel. It was a storm. Each attack was faster than the last. He couldn't afford to hold back. He struck her shoulder. She cut his leg. He knocked her back with a sweep. She returned with a spinning strike that nearly cut his throat. The crowd was on its feet, chanting, howling, hungry for a winner. Kalari suddenly broke off and flipped backward into a crouch. Her chest rose and fell quickly. Her blades shimmered red from friction and heat. Jace was panting too. Sweat rolled down his temples. His hands throbbed from the impacts. But neither of them stepped away. He looked into her eyes again. This time, he didn't see death. He saw a challenge, respect, and something more unsettling. Curiosity. What happens if I win, he asked. Kalari tilted her head. Then you choose. Take me as mate, or walk away. But if I win, you are mine. Body, name, and fire. He grunted. Fire. Our bond. Our connection. The one that decides if you're just a fighter or something greater. Jay shook his head and steadied his spear. You're all mad. She smiled again. Then prove us wrong. With no warning, she lunged. Her speed was terrifying. He parried her first slash but missed a second. It carved through his side, just above the hip. Pain shot up his body, but he didn't fall. Instead, he twisted, spun behind her, and slammed the shaft of his spear against her spine. Kalari fell forward, rolled with the impact, and came up swinging. Her blade stopped just an inch from his throat, and his spear hovered above her heart. The crowd gasped. Time stood still between them. One more move, and someone would fall. But neither struck. They stood frozen, both warriors breathing heavily, weapons trembling in the air. For the first time, Kalari spoke softly. You never lost before. Why stop now? Jace's voice was quiet. Because this doesn't feel like losing. The moment broke like glass under pressure. Both warriors stepped back at the same time. Their blades lowered. Their breaths were still heavy, but something invisible had shifted. The arena was quiet now. Even the crowd's sense of tension had evolved into something more complex. Jace kept his spear raised, but no longer pointed it at her. His muscles still burned, his side still bled, but his thoughts were sharp. She had matched him blow for blow. She had tested him, not just as an enemy, but as an equal. Kalari straightened and walked a slow circle around him again. This time, her steps weren't a threat. They were a study. She was reading him, measuring more than strength. She paused in front of him and lifted her chin with defiance. You didn't strike when you could have. Why? Because you didn't either, Jace replied. That's not an answer. That's a reflection. Then maybe I saw something worth stopping for. Kalari sheathed her sword slowly. The gesture was bold. In any other arena, it would be suicide. But here it meant something. She was extending trust. Or perhaps challenging him to do the same. Jace lowered his spear and let its tip touch the ground. His fingers relaxed slightly. Around them, the arena began to shift. The stone beneath their feet retracted, revealing a circular platform rising slowly from below. The match was over. A decision had been made. A booming voice echoed through the air. It came from the tower above, spoken in the same alien tongue the crowd had chanted earlier. But this time, the words were followed by a new sound. A name. His name. Spoken with strange syllables, but unmistakable. The crowd chanted again, louder this time. Jace looked up and saw lights pulsing from the top of the arena walls. His victory or survival was being broadcast across the planet. Kalari turned to him. You passed the first rite. There will be more. Jace narrowed his eyes. How many more fights do I have to survive to leave this place? She gave a faint smile. That depends on whether you keep surviving or start choosing. The platform carried them upward toward a wide stone corridor. Torches lit the path in blue and gold. Alien guards stood at attention, but none interfered. Jace glanced at Kalari as they walked side by side. So what now? A cell, a feast, another duel. Rest. You'll be summoned soon. The matriarchs will want to see the man who held back his blade. He grunted. I didn't hold back. I made a choice. That's what frightens them and excites them. Most males come here fighting for escape or for dominance. You fight like you've done it all before and then chose not to finish it. Jace didn't answer. The corridor opened into a wide chamber lined with stone beds and carved murals. The air smelled of herbs and smoke. A healer approached, her hands glowing with strange green light. Kalari nodded once and left him there. The healer didn't speak. She simply touched his wounds, and warmth spread through him. Pain faded. Skin closed. Muscles relaxed. Within minutes, he was whole again, but his thoughts weren't. Jace lay back against the wall and stared at the ceiling. Kalari's face wouldn't leave his mind. Not because of her beauty, not even because of her skill, but because she didn't try to win the way the others had. She tested his will, not just his blade. He'd been through wars, survived assassination attempts, defeated monsters in rings of blood and fire. But nothing had ever unsettled him like the woman who didn't strike when she could, and still claimed him anyway. Jace woke to the sound of drums. Deep, slow beats that echoed through the stone walls like the pulse of the planet itself. He sat up, muscle stiff but healed. The healer was gone. The room was empty except for a fresh set of clothes left beside his bed. Alien in design but light and flexible. He dressed in silence and followed the sound. The corridor outside was lined with flickering torches. The air smelled of burning oil and something sweet. As he walked, he noticed the murals carved into the walls. Images of women in battle, warriors kneeling, and symbols that hinted at ritual, not just violence. This world didn't just glorify combat. It worshipped it. At the end of the hall, 2 armored guards stood with crossed halberds. They stepped aside without a word. Inside was a chamber shaped like a circle. 12 women sat in high-backed stone chairs around a central fire. Each wore different armor, different markings, but shared the same sharp eyes. Kalari stood among them, her expression unreadable. She nodded slightly as Jace entered. One of the seated women, older than the rest and draped in purple and bone armor, spoke first. Human, you were not chosen. You fell, and yet you survived the right. Jace didn't bow. He didn't kneel. He met their eyes with calm defiance. I didn't come here to play your games. My ship crashed. I adapted. That's all. Another woman leaned forward. Her armor gleamed with obsidian scales. And yet you faced a war-born and lived. Kalari chose you. That carries meaning. He looked at Kalari again, but she didn't speak. She watched him like a judge waiting for one more proof. Jace kept his voice steady. Where I come from, survival doesn't mean submission. The woman in purple raised one brow. Interesting. Most males here would have accepted their collar by now. I'm not most males. The fire crackled between them. A different matriarch spoke. You have options. You can refuse the rights and remain a prisoner. Or you can continue. Fight again. Win your freedom. Or win something else. Jace crossed his arms. And if I keep winning, you gain standing, voice, territory, even command. Few males have earned such things. But you are not like the others. We see that. Kalari finally stepped forward. He should see the proving grounds. Let him understand the blood that built our houses. The matriarchs murmured but gave no objection. Moments later, Jace found himself walking beside Kalari through a long balcony overlooking the valley. Below was a sprawling network of arenas, training fields, and stone temples carved into cliffs. The proving grounds. Every warrior trains here. Every bond is tested here. Every challenge, every betrayal, every vow begins here. Jace leaned on the rail, watching hundreds of warriors sparring below. It wasn't just chaos. It was organized, structured, like an academy built on pain and pride. He could feel the intensity from this height. Kalari stood beside him. You think we're savages, but this is how peace is kept. Power must be visible, earned. It's the only thing the clans respect. He nodded slowly. And you chose me not because I was strong, but because I didn't try to dominate. Her voice was softer now. You confuse me. That's rare. Confusion is dangerous here, but it also means possibility. Jace turned toward her fully. So what now? Another fight. Another test. Kalari's eyes met his with something deeper than challenge. Now we train. Together. Because when the next trial comes, it won't be one of us who decides the outcome. It will be both of us. The sun hung low over the proving grounds, casting long shadows across the arena floor. Warriors moved like dancers through patterns of strikes and counters. Jay stood beside Kalari, watching them, feeling the weight of the day ahead pressing on his shoulders. Training on Karwax was nothing like the military drills back on Earth. There were no bark commands, no synchronized movements. Each warrior trained for their own purpose, some to claim, some to resist, and some simply to survive. Every swing had intention. Every breath held focus. Kalari didn't coddle him. She didn't offer advice or slow down. Her strikes came fast and fierce. Jace blocked what he could and took the hits when he failed. Pain was part of learning here, and she made sure he learned quickly. His body ached from bruises and cuts, but his reflexes sharpened. Each day, his movements grew faster, his footwork steadier. The spear felt like an extension of his arm again. He wasn't just recovering. He was adapting. They trained without words most days. But sometimes between bouts, Kalari spoke. Not about war, not about the rights, but about her people. Their code, the reason behind the bond between warriors and mates. To her, combat was not violence. It was honesty. You can't lie with a blade. Not here, not in the arena. That's why our bonds begin in combat. If you flinch, if you hesitate, it shows. Jace listened more than he spoke. He had learned in his years of survival that silence often revealed more than questioning. Still, when he did ask, he chose his words carefully. What happens if someone refuses all bonds? Kalari paused mid-strike. They are seen as incomplete, without anchor, without purpose. Some are respected, others are feared, but all are watched. He understood what she meant. This society was built on visible loyalty. Power came through challenge, but stability came through connection. A warrior without ties was unpredictable, a threat or a weapon, depending on who claimed them. As the days passed, Jace noticed others watching him, warriors who had seen him fight, elders who whispered as he passed. Kalari said nothing, but he could tell her position was shifting. The one who chose the outsider now held status, and with it, danger. One evening, as the suns dipped below the cliffs, Kalari led him to a smaller ring carved into stone. No crowds, no flames, just quiet. This is the circle of truth. Here, no spectators are allowed. No rewards are given. It's where warriors face each other not for rank, but for understanding. Jay stepped into the ring without hesitation. He trusted her now, more than he had trusted anyone in a long time. But he knew trust alone didn't erase instincts. As they circled each other, blades drawn, he felt the shift again. Not enemies, not rivals, something else. Their clash was brief. No power plays, no heavy strikes, just fluid motion. Testing, reading, respecting. When they stopped, blades locked. There was no winner. And for the first time, neither of them cared. Kalari looked into his eyes and asked quietly, "Do you still wish to leave this world?" Jace didn't answer right away. The silence between them was louder than any crowd. When he finally spoke, it was not with certainty, but with clarity. "I wanted to escape. Now I just want to understand what I'm becoming." Kalari stepped back and lowered her weapon. "Then you're ready for the next trial. But it's not me you'll face. It's the one who questions your right to stand by me." The days that followed blurred into a rhythm of movement, training, and silent observation. Jay spent every waking hour preparing for the unnamed trial Kalari had warned him about. No schedule was posted. No date was announced. The uncertainty kept his senses sharp. He wasn't alone anymore. Other warriors began to speak with him. Not many, not warmly, but they no longer looked at him like an intruder. He had earned a place, even if that place still stood on uncertain ground. Kalari didn't praise him. She didn't smile or compliment his strikes. But she didn't have to. Her presence beside him in every session was enough. She watched his progress, measured it, pushed him harder each time, and he welcomed it. They sparred under the twin suns until their blades steamed with sweat. They ate in silence, shoulder to shoulder on cold stone steps. In the evenings, they walked the upper corridors, where only the wind and moonlight followed them. Jace asked her once why she trained him herself. Her answer was simple. Because if you fall under someone else's hand, I will never know if it was weakness or their mistake. The bond between them was unspoken, but undeniable. It had shifted from curiosity to something steadier. A rhythm, not affection. Not yet, but trust built from broken skin and shared silence. One night, Kalari brought him to a different place. A hidden chamber beneath the archives. The walls were covered in carved symbols and lit with blue flame. In the center stood a tall mirror made of obsidian and glass. This is the mirror of truth. It is not magic. It does not lie, but it shows what others see when they look at you. And you cannot look away until it is done. Jay stepped forward, unsure what to expect. His reflection shimmered, then shifted. Not just his face, but moments of himself appeared. Decisions made. Victories won. Regrets carried. He saw himself fighting Kalari, standing in the circle, sparring, pausing when he could have killed. Again and again, the image showed that moment, the choice not to strike, the choice to understand. When he turned to Kalari, her eyes were softer than before. Now you understand what others fear. It's not your strength. It's the way you hold back, even when you could destroy. He didn't respond. He simply nodded because he understood now. This place didn't fear monsters. It feared mystery. And in their eyes, he was still a question unanswered. The next morning, the summons came. A single bell from the highest tower. All warriors were called to the grand arena. This was no trial of choice. It was law. The one who questioned his right to stand beside Kalari had issued a claim. Kalari met him at the edge of the gate. Her armor was ceremonial now, gold-trimmed, her swords newly sharpened, but her voice was the same. You will not fight for me. You will fight for your own place. That is the only way our bond holds value. Jace gave a small nod. Then I'll make it mine. As he stepped into the arena, the roar of the crowd thundered above. This wasn't like before. There were banners hanging from the stone towers, symbols etched into the floor. Every warrior on the cliffs watched in silence. His opponent stood waiting at the center. She was larger than Kalari, fiercer in posture. Her hammer rested on her shoulder like a crown. Her eyes held no hate, only challenge. This was no sparring match. This was proof. The arena pulsed with tension as warriors filled every level of the circular stands. Dust swirled from the wind, lit by the fading twin suns overhead. Jay stood still, breathing slow, eyes focused on the woman across from him. Virella, Kalari's blood sister, wore armor etched with black iron and crimson cloth. Her hammer rested across her shoulders. She watched Jace with cold eyes, unblinking and unreadable. She wasn't here to test his skill. She was here to break his claim. Kalari stood on the ledge above, silent but present. She wore no helmet. Her silver hair moved in the wind. Her gaze never left Jace. She would not interfere. This was not her trial to fight. The signal to begin came not from a voice, but from a fire that burst in a circle around the arena's edge. Virella moved instantly, charging forward with heavy steps. Her hammer swung down with force that cracked the stone beneath his feet. Jace rolled to the side, using her momentum against her. He jabbed his spear toward her side, but her armor caught the blow. Sparks flew. She twisted, trying to trap his weapon beneath her arm. He released the shaft before she could snap it. She smiled darkly, flinging the captured spear away. Now weaponless, Jace backed off, eyes scanning the arena for anything useful. But there was nothing but dust and stone. Varela advanced slowly now, hammer dragging behind her. You lost your blade. Will you lose your place next? Jace didn't answer. He crouched low and picked up a stone the size of his fist. Not elegant, not precise, but enough. She lunged again, swinging wide. He ducked beneath the arc, slammed the stone into her thigh joint, and felt her stumble. Not much damage, but a dent in her rhythm. He moved fast, dodging the next blow and rushing behind her. With one hand, he grabbed a loose strap from her armor and yanked hard. She spun, off balance. He punched her side with everything he had. It was like hitting metal. Pain shot through his knuckles. She recovered instantly, ramming her elbow into his ribs. He flew back and hit the ground hard, breath knocked from his chest. Varela loomed over him. You are not one of us. You cannot become one of us. Leave this place with your pride before I crush both. Jace wiped blood from his mouth and pushed to his feet. You think pride is what I'm fighting for. He didn't wait for her to respond. He charged low, tackling her around the waist. They crashed into the wall of the arena. Her hammer slipped from her hand. They grappled. Fists, elbows, desperation. Varela was strong, but Jace was fast. He slipped under her arm, got behind her, and hooked his arm around her neck. She struggled, slammed him into the wall. But he didn't let go. They collapsed, sand and blood mixing beneath them. She reached for her hammer, but he kicked it away. She twisted, nearly throwing him off. But he held his grip tighter now, heart pounding. Finally, she stopped moving. He released her slowly and stepped back. She breathed heavily on the ground, chest rising and falling. But she didn't stand, and she didn't speak. Jace turned toward the silent crowd. The fire around the arena dimmed. Kalari stepped forward slowly and said just one word, earned. The flames around the arena faded into embers as silence took over the crowd. Jace stood over Varela's motionless form, chest heaving, blood running down his forearm. He didn't raise his fists in victory. He didn't smile. There was nothing to prove anymore. Varela slowly pushed herself up on one arm. Her eyes met his for a long moment. She didn't speak. Instead, she placed her fist to her chest and nodded. It was not surrender. It was recognition. The crowd erupted in sound, not wild cheering, but the rhythmic pounding of fist to stone, a beat of approval, a warrior's welcome, a ritual earned only through blood and restraint. Kalari walked down from the viewing platform and stepped into the circle. Her blades were sheathed, her armor untouched. She moved with the calm of someone who had known the outcome all along. She stopped before Jace and looked at him without speaking. The air between them held weight, not tension, not hesitation. Something ancient, something decided. She reached forward and pressed her palm to his chest, just above his heart. Then she placed her other hand across her own. I choose, she said. Jace's voice was low but clear. Then I stand beside you, not as your captive, not as your proof, but as your equal. Around them, the matriarchs rose from their thrones above. One by one, they touched their hands to their chests in salute. They did not speak. They didn't need to. The choice had been made. Later that night, fires lit the edges of the proving grounds. Warriors feasted, drank, and sparred in celebration. But Jace and Kalari stood together on the outer cliffs, away from the noise, watching the stars drift over the violet sky. You're no longer a visitor. You're no longer a question. They see you now, Kalari said. Jace crossed his arms, his voice thoughtful. They see what I chose to show. Nothing more, nothing less. She nodded, and still they accepted it. That is rare here. They follow strength, but they remember mercy. He glanced at her, then turned back to the stars. Do you regret choosing me? No, but I do wonder what you'll become now that you're no longer fighting just to escape. He let her words settle. They both knew he could leave if he wished. The matriarchs would not stop him, but he also knew something deeper now. This world had carved him, reshaped him, but not broken him. It had revealed him. I never expected to find something worth staying for, he said. Kalari looked at him, her eyes reflecting the twin moons above. Then stay not because you're bound, but because you see the future in the fire. He reached out and took her hand, the calluses of her palm rough against his own. They stood in silence, the stars spinning slowly above. Whatever battles lay ahead, whatever doubts remained, they would face them together, not as warrior and prize, but as partners,